Hello, friends. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is somebody I have a business relationship with. Eszylfie Taylor. He's the founder and president of Taylor Insurance and Financial Services located in Pasadena, California. He serves as a financial advisor to individuals, business owners, high net worth families. Really successful dude. Really smart dude. We talk a lot about him being a black man growing up in the U.S., now building a super successful business. If he feels that people of color have advantages or disadvantages in the current marketplace. We talk a lot about some common mistakes people are making in their current finance portfolio, as well as just catching up about what's going on in the world. So it was a really good conversation. I always love learning and growing my perspective on things, especially when it comes to areas that are really prevalent in the world today, right? Race and the economy and COVID. We all have our opinions on those things, but it's always beneficial, especially for me, to just hear different perspectives and learn and grow and share my perspective when possible. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy the episode.
This is Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams, where differing opinions are not only accepted, they're encouraged.
Eszylfie, we're live. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So I've always wanted to ask, how do people pronounce your name? Like, what are some of the weirdest pronunciations you've ever got?
So Eszylfie is an interesting name, right? My father is from Ghana, West Africa. So Eszylfie means son of God, right? So I got a lot to live up to. So I gotta keep that name. But growing up, obviously, it got butchered. Eszylfie. I've got all the letters jumbled in, just all the letters of the alphabet all put in one. And then obviously having the Z in my name, cursive was a nightmare, right? So Eszylfie is the name. Now, believe it or not, I was a shy kid. So when people would mispronounce my name as a child, I'd say, yeah, close enough. So Eszylfie became Eszylfie, and then the E just dropped off. So everybody called me Surfie, right? So growing up, elementary school, high school, college, everybody called me Surfie. When I started my career, I'm like, I'm gonna go by my given name, Eszylfie, and that's it. So now I've got the easiest way to describe my name because I tell people, think of a selfie like you're taking a photo with your phone, and then put an E in front, Eszylfie, and then people are like, oh, okay. So I don't have the same struggles today as I had when I was younger.
No, that's awesome. My old accountant, who would say "easy life." That's what he would pronounce it as. I was like, I don't think
Right,
that's how the pronunciation, man.
right. Yeah, no, I wish it were so easy. No, that's not the case.
Yeah. So let's chat a little bit about your background. How did you get into the finance and insurance space that you're in now?
Yeah. So I started in this industry literally right out of college. I wish that I could say that I knew that I was meant to be in this business. I wish that I could say I knew that a role as a financial advisor was my calling, but that wasn't the case. I knew that I wanted to be successful in life. I knew that, as a child, right, coming up, growing up, raised by a single mom, that she sacrificed a lot for my brother and I, but tend to always let us know how much it cost her, right? So when I was a kid, I thought to myself, when I grew up, I want to be successful, I want to do well, and I want to provide for my family. And I never want to tell them how much it cost me. I never want to tell them how much I had to sacrifice. I just wanted to do it. And so, yeah, so that was kind of my sentiment getting into this business. So truthfully, in the beginning, it wasn't so much really about the people and the mission as much as it was just looking for a career that I could do well in. And once I got into this business and learned, okay, what I was doing and saw the tremendous impact that I could have in people's life, then my mindset and my purpose shifted from, okay, what do I get out of this to, well, what can I do and how can I help, other people, right? And so that's it, man. So this is, the start of my 21st year now in business. Yeah. So I've been at this
Wow.
for a long time, long time. I know I look young. This black don't crack, but I've been at this for.
Yeah, I was gonna say you look young, man. I would have guessed you're like early 30s.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm a grizzled old man, right? I try to hide the grays, but although I'm convinced I'm reverse aging, I'm convinced I'm reverse aging and going back on that, but no, I think it's really just my exuberance for life and passion and helping people that really invigorates me, that really just keeps me, going, and so the term financial advisor is used so loosely. What does that really mean? I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and truthfully, if I'd known what I would have to go through to get to this point, I can't tell you that I would have done it again
Yeah.
either. But I always say, but now that I'm here, man, I couldn't ask to be in a better place, in life. I feel really blessed, right? And it's a journey, right? I'm by all means, I'm in the midst of it, right? It's not a finished product, right, by any stretch, but I'm here, right? And so I'm curious and anxious to see what the next chapter looks like.
Yeah, and we're gonna touch on some of that. I'm excited to ask you about. Was your mother? Did she immigrate here from Ghana?
So my father is West African from Ghana. My mother's American. So my
Okay.
mother grew up in North Carolina, and I had a interesting lineage, right? So my father went to like British boarding school, so he was very proper, very disciplined. My mom grew up in Jim Crow South, right, in North Carolina in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and so I was a product of interesting, right? Like literally like my father's Ghanaian royalty, and then like like my mom had to miss school to pick cotton, right, growing up, and they met in Boston years ago. My mom worked for the government. They got transferred out to LA, and that's I grew up here, right? So one thing that they both certainly taught me and impressed upon me was the ideal of having great pride in everything that you do, and the ideal, my father used to tell me all the time, be the best or among the best, right? Like those were things that were impressed upon me. My mom every day when I got out of the car to go to school, she would tell me, be a trendsetter today, right? And so there was a great deal of pride and high level of expectation put on both my brother and I by my parents, and I feel like it's what set me up for success in life.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I don't know if you recall, but the USA played Ghana in the World Cup maybe like 6 years ago now. Who were you rooting for back then?
I'm not the biggest soccer or football fan, but I guess I got to go for the heritage, right, of Ghana.
Yeah.
I have on my forearm, I have the a tattoo of Ghana, the country there, so it definitely runs through my veins, literally. But it's funny, right? My mom's American, but I look like my dad. I look like my father. I look like I'm African, and so oftentimes that I'll meet people and they'll be like, "Oh, from Ghana, have you gone? Oh, do you speak the language?" Or start speaking to me, and I'm like, "Look, because there's obviously certain dialects, but I'm like, other than like, how are you? I'm fine. God bless you. Like, I don't, I don't know, I don't know a whole lot."
That's crazy that you're not a big soccer fan because Ghana has a good club. The
Yeah, and
Ghana
that's the thing.
produces good players.
That's the thing growing up, right? My father was like, men run track and play soccer, right? And I grew up here. I'm like, I'm idolizing Michael Jordan and looking at football, basketball, and he's like, he could care less about those things. But also, and just in general, I love sports. I love to compete. I probably am not the most fond of running. So my dad, being a track star or soccer player weren't highest on my list. I could do the basketball court 94 feet's good, football 100 yards max, but beyond that, if I can't see my final destination, it's too far.
Yeah, man, but that's okay. Basketball, I feel like is like the craziest cardio workout of all time. Anyway, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
insane. So what you touched on it a little bit with your mom's past. What is your take? I mean, obviously, I'm white for people that don't know that listen to my show, and I grew up super low income, but maybe there were some advantages because of the color of my skin. Uh, what's your take on everything just going on in 2020 right now? We're recording in November of 2020, so things have calmed down a bit. We're just post the election. It's looking like Biden is going to be the new president in a couple months. What's your take on just the everything race relations wise going on in 2020?
Yeah, growing up here in Southern California was a very eclectic, mix of people that I was around my whole life, and very inclusive, um, to some degree, right? And I remember as a kid, my mom, got transferred to a neighboring city, here, Arcadia, that at the time was predominantly white. My brother and I were really the first black kids at this school, and this is in the 80s, right? We basically desegregated the school, right? And I remember getting picked on, because, I look different, and it's like, well, you're black. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So what's the problem, right? And it's like, well, that means you're different. Like, why, right? And I remember that experience and struggling and not making sense to me. And I remember as I got older and then, learning, playing sports and becoming a star athlete and getting all the attention from, girls and the most popular kid in school, which I became, and then all the kids used to pick on me, then all of a sudden become the kids who, are like, hey, can I spend the night at your house? Or, hey, can we be friends? And I'm like, wow, it's amazing that I'm the same color, I'm the same person, but you like me because I'm popular, or because I run fast, or because I can play basketball, or because I'm funny, or whatever. And it's like that was probably one of the most telling things that I learned as a 8-year-old boy, is that you got to judge people on their character. You got to judge people on who they are, not what they look like. And from that point forward, as I transitioned from being the outcast to the popular kid, I literally became the bully to bullies, right? Like if I saw someone picking on someone else, right, then I'd pick on them, right? Like, how do you like it? You don't, right? So
Yeah.
stop, and so that's just stuck with me through life, and so as I've now transitioned into adulthood, into a professional career, I think the biggest thing is that a lot of the travesties and injustices, it's not more prevalent today. I probably say it's less prevalent today than it ever has been, right? It's just there's this thing, right? It's being recorded,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
now people are seeing it, right? I cringe to think at how many unjust treatment and murders and abuses have taken place. That was what was maybe there was a complaint maybe filed, and someone could say, nope, I didn't do that, and there was nothing to say, and you're always going to err on the side of authority and go, well, the authority says that didn't happen, so we're going to, who are we going to believe, right? And so now, because of that device, we can see, right? I mean, think what Childish Gambino has this song, right? This is America, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking, showing it, so I think as a whole, the country, the world is more awake today than they've ever been in terms of viewing it. And I think people are shocked and disgusted by some of the things that are going on because they're seeing it for the first time. But someone like me, even growing up in Pasadena, California, far from, what you would consider a segregated, racist community, I've had, countless, encounters with, law enforcement or scenarios where I was discriminated against. And really up until recently did I even realize that it was an issue. Like I just accepted it as like, well, this is how,
Can
it
you
is, right?
can you share some examples? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what experiences have you had?
Yeah, I mean, I shared this in a video that I talked about, a few months ago, but I referenced my first time getting pulled over, right? 16 years old after a basketball game. I'm literally, at a red light. I've got my two buddies in the back seat, my buddy's girlfriend. So there's three people in the back seat. I'm the only one in the front seat. This is like, I guess I was their Uber driver right before, but they all wanted to ride in the back. So we're driving to a local burger place after the game. It's probably 8:30 at night, like on a Thursday, and I'm at a red light, and cops behind me. As soon as the light turns green, flashes me. It's night, so the lights are bright. I can't really see. I'm like, okay, I know to pull over, right? But I've never been pulled over before. And like this is like my second month with a driver's license, right? So I know enough to pull off to the side. So the car's running. I'm just sitting there, and then I hear ding, ding, ding on the window, and I turn my head, and there's a 45, revolver pointed at my face, right? And I'm like, oh, and he's like, turn off the car, turn off the radio. I'm like, okay, right, turn it off. Get out of the car, like get out of the car, right? What are you doing? Searches me, searches my car, pulls my friends out, whatnot. And as I remember being embarrassed because a lot of my friends from the team were driving by to the burger place, seeing what was going on, kind of laughing, like, you got pulled over. And I'm thinking like, man, what did I do? I was literally at a red light. And as soon as the light went turned green, he went. And he's like, oh, can we search your car? I don't know any better. I'm like, okay, right? Like I didn't have anything in the car. So, okay. And I think about that. And even up until very recently, Jeremy, like I always thought like it's my calm demeanor and the way that I articulate myself and my sentiment that's why I never got killed or beaten, right? Because I'm not gonna ruffle with the police or I'm not gonna talk back, I'm just gonna use my wit. And I think about it, how easily could it have been for me to turn my head, see a gun, and flinch back? That'd have been a lot of people's natural reactions. And how easily could he have just pulled the trigger saying, I thought he was going for something. And as now, I even like, I get chills thinking about that. Like at the time, I just remember literally having a gun in my face and just like turning like, oh. And that was probably the first of 3 times I had a gun pointed at my face. The first time, I've been handcuffed and put in car searched and on all these situations. Ask me if I ever got so much as a speeding ticket. You know what I mean? And so, but again, I'm from 16 to 20. This was what I was experiencing. So I'm like, this is what happens, right? You get pulled out, guns at your face, right? One officer handcuffed me. He's like, I want to search your car. And he handcuffed me. And he goes, I'm handcuffing you because if you run, I won't be able to catch you. So he said to me, right? So I'm sitting on the curb handcuffed, like, all right. And again, I'm not resisting. I'm not yelling about it. I'm like, this is just what happens, right?
Yeah.
And so as I share these accounts, I can't tell you how many people, as I shared these types of stories, were coming back to me like, oh, no, not you, because they see me like, how could that happen to you? I'm like, yeah, like, tell me about it.
No, that
right?
is crazy. That's surprising. Yeah.
And so,
and this is in California, right?
This is in California.
Yeah.
Right? This is in Pasadena. This is not like I was in, Alabama or Mississippi or somewhere where you're like, I can kind of get it. This is in California in the 90s, 2000s, so this is prevalent. And so this device now where people can see what's going on, people are like, wow, it's memorialized. That's, I think, what the biggest catalyst for change. But when I look at NBA games and I see players with say their name and Black Lives Matters, and I see I'm driving through even my neighborhood now. I live over by the Rose Bowl, and I see my same-sex couple like that lives my neighbor with a Black Lives Matters, a white couple with Black Lives Matters sign in their driveway. I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? Like this is interesting, right? And so, I find that it's good that people are awakening, but we're far from being on an equal playing field, right? Now, for me, I was raised, again, to be the best or among the best. So I never said, my parents never told me, you can get far, but only so far because, or like, you're going to have a harder time because. My dad just said, be the best. And so in my mind, I never walk into a room and feel in fear. I never walk into a room and go, I'm not going to get this promotion because I'm Black, or they're not going to give me a chance because I'm Black. I'm like, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I'm the best, so I'm going to win, right? And so now in someone else's mind in that room, could they be like, I'm going to hold him back because? Perhaps, but that's never my mindset, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to achieve success in life, not because I'm better than anyone else or smarter than everybody else. I'm just really, really stubborn. Right? And I'll say stubbornness is persistence with a purpose, right? And my purpose is to make an impact. And I'm not going to stop because at the end of the day, everyone has an excuse. You might not like me because I'm Black. The other person might not like me because I'm young. Another person might not like me because of my hair or my beard, what have you. So, but the way I look at it, like for every moment and everything in my life where someone can say, well, I don't like this because, there's people that are also going to be like, I relate to you because, or I vibe with you because, right? Or I'm with you because. And so I just choose to look at the glass being half full as opposed to half empty.
No, that's a really great mindset. And I agree on a lot with that, because like I grew up as like low income. I was like, a fat kid growing up. So I feel like tomorrow we could stop judging people based on the color of their skin, and then we would just find something else to just judge people on. Unfortunately, I feel like people subconsciously and naturally we're just really judgmental creatures, unfortunately. And I think a lot of it, and this is just from books I've read, it's not so much because of hate, it's more just like ignorance and fear. It's like you don't know, like I wasn't around that culture growing up. I don't know anything about it. And rather than saying, hey, let me ask questions, why are things done this way, why, it's just rather than being curious, it's like I'm gonna just automatically assume that that's not for me, and I'm just gonna talk shit, and I'm gonna just be fearful and ignorant,
Right.
And
Right.
I do think we're just gonna judge, and I something that I've worked on with my therapist and in coaching groups is just being more curious with anybody rather than just making judgment, because anybody that says they don't judge is lying. Like we
Yeah, I
judge
mean,
people, and it's tough not to judge. Like
it's our natural, to your point, it's our natural thing. It's our natural defense mechanism, right? When I think when you think about it, especially as it relates to African Americans and in particular African American men, there's just this deep, deep seated intrinsic distrust and fear that has been embedded into us. And it's not just white people to blacks or Hispanics to blacks or Asians to blacks, it's blacks to blacks, right? And what I mean by that is if you're walking downtown LA at 10 o'clock at night and three white guys are walking on the same side of the street of you, you're just going to keep walking. Like, If there's same thing, 10 o'clock at night, three black guys are walking down the street, you're going to be like, man, like, and they, and, and why is that? Like, where did that come from? And it's this like bred, it's what's bred into us. And so even today, if you're like, oh no, not me, like I'm awake, I'm open, yeah, there's some deeper stuff in there that we still have to come out with. And it's even admittedly for me, right? Like I'm gonna think like I'm gonna think the same thing, even me. So I even have to question, like, damn, where does that come from? Hell, I'm a black man, and even me, I'm like, well, I don't know, man. Like, and so I think that I'll tell you this: white people have been nicer to me and more acknowledging to me in the last few months than ever before. And I don't mean
really.
like my friends. I don't mean my friends. I mean when I'm like walking down the street. I mean at the grocery store, like, hey, buddy, like, like over the top. You know what I mean? Like, like, hey, white people, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like, but I think for me, I give people the benefit of the doubt, and from rather than being angry or being jaded by it, I assume, maybe some of this feeling is coming from ignorance or coming because they haven't, had interactions or the opportunity to really connect with someone who's different from themselves, right? Because it's natural in our own environment to go, well, this is where I feel comfortable. These are the people I'm around. I'm going to build my judgments based on my experience, right? Versus like, those who are in eclectic groups of people. Like you can be racist in LA, I guess, if you want. You'll be quiet though, because you're going to be around so many different people. You're going to have to work with so many different people. And whatever bias you have is probably going to be challenged, right? If I go, well, black people are lazy, right? That's what they say. But you have a job with a black colleague, you're like, wow, right? Mark was like the hardest working guy I ever met. And damn, Tanya, damn, she's probably the smartest person I've ever been around as building the software, right? And then it challenges those. But if your only perception is dope, I live in an all-white neighborhood in an all-white community, and my only perception is what I see on television or what I read in social media, which is also has its own bias, then those stigmas are never challenged.
Yeah, and that's why I feel that's where I think the remaining racism is, honestly, is the those type of people that are just in there in the remaining judgment for anything. Like if you look at the history of even which I think as a country we're pretty much past the gay marriage thing. I don't really know like anybody that's still on that topic. Maybe here and there it comes up, but if early the politicians, right and left, because Democrats and Republicans up until 15 years ago were against gay marriage. The ones that were for at first were always the ones that like their kid came out and stuff. It's like once it relates to you, like Jeb Bush, I don't know if you remember back in the day, like Jeb Bush, who has I believe a Mexican wife, George Bush's brother, like Republicans are like really, really hard on immigration. He was the one that's like, hey, we should probably work out some sort of amnesty thing, like people, like they're, it's like when it relates to you and when you have experience, it's just, it shifts your whole perspective, so it is interesting. But so do you feel, and this may not be in like an easy question to answer, but I feel like it's really relevant. Do you feel in 2020, the color of your skin makes a difference? Not wealth, not class, not anything like that. Strictly the color of your skin makes a difference in how successful you can be as an American.
I do not personally believe that this color of my skin dictates the level of my success. I think everyone is dealt a hand, right? Using a poker reference. Everyone gets two cards. And some people's starting hands better than another, no doubt, right? So do I have some obstacles to overcome because I'm black that a white man in my same position doesn't have to deal with? Sure, right? But maybe, but we all have our hands, right? Like, and it's not what you're given, it's how you play it, right? So if that white man who's built, who's in my same position doesn't have my work ethic, I will win. If that white man who's in my same position doesn't have my aptitude to take these complex methodologies and financial, calculations and articulate them to people in a manner that's palatable where they can take action, then I win, right? So at the end of the day, there are pros and cons to every situation, right? Like, what were the odds I was going to be a 5'8" college basketball player? Probably not that high, right? But I'm like, okay, like, let's go, right? And so there's always going to be challenges, but that goes for me being black rather, someone who's white, Hispanic, a man, a woman, gay, straight, Muslim, Christian. Like, choose your poison. What's your excuse, right? At the end of the day, we all have something we could hang our hat on and go, this is why I'm not going to make it, or this is why this is too hard for me. And it's like, okay, you can make an excuse or you can overcome it. My mind is something that I say a lot, right? Like, Jeremy, all paths in life lead to not worrying about anything. Here's what I mean by that. If you have a problem and you can do something about it, don't worry about it, right? Right? Just go. If you have a problem and you can't do anything about it, don't worry about it, right? What are you going to worry about? You can't do anything about it. So in my life, it's like the only thing I control and the thing that I focus on right now for me is the process, is my work. I'm detached from the outcome. So if I bust my tail, if I do everything possible to succeed, and I don't reach my goals, okay, I'm okay with that because I put it out there, right? If I can't say I've done everything in my power to be as great a man, a father, a great friend as I can be, if I haven't done that, and then I fall short, who do I have to blame? Who can I point the finger at someone else if I haven't done everything I need to do? Nah, right? My mom going back to this school situation, I'm fourth grade, right? I've always gotten all A's, go to this school, situation's bad, right? Get picked on every day, fighting all the kids every day at school, not doing well in school. My grades were all C's. First time I never got a C in my life. All C's. We get the report card. I'm like, oh my God, my dad's double PhD. My mom is a government employee. They're going to kill me, right? So my mom gets a report card. I'm ready. This is back in the day when you could still spank your kids. So I'm getting ready for the whooping, right? And my mom says to me, if this was the best you can do, I'm okay, right? Like, these grades are okay. If this isn't the best you can do, if you didn't do everything you can do, if you didn't work as hard as you can work and these are your grades, then I'm disappointed. And I took that like, okay, this wasn't the best I could do. I didn't focus. I was distracted. I wasn't happy. let me control what I control, do what I can do. And then from that point forward, I flipped it on its head and I finished the year all A's. And these little lessons, right? And this is why it's so important, as whether it be your role as a father or as a business owner, or even as a friend, is so important to encourage people, because it's those little lessons, it's those moments in life that can define you. And if you can take just one lesson from it and turn that into something positive into your life, it can have a tremendous impact.
Yeah, that's really good perspective from your mom. That's really good. I don't know if I've ever like heard that exactly explained to a child, but I feel like that's how you can get a child to start acting like an adult really quick. Because no one wants to get like told what to do, you know? So the mindset you're talking about, which I agree completely. I think America has a bunch of victim mindsets, right? It's just like you can always find a reason to blame your situation on why you can't be successful or why you can. And I had a buddy of mine named LaShawn. He was on one of my first episodes. We talked about, he's a black entrepreneur, a really good friend of mine. We talked about the term white privilege. And I was like, I'm not a big fan of that term, because it doesn't help anybody, first of all. And then I grew up, really low income area. My parents, low income, but they weren't addicts or anything like that. I mean, tons of friends lived in, crappy little trailers. Their cars were getting repossessed. Their parents were addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I'm like, try to tell me the privilege that these white kids have. Like maybe they.
Let me break it down for you though, and so it will make sense, right? To your point, being white doesn't mean like, oh, you have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house and a Mercedes-Benz and a trust fund, right? To your point, you're like, no, dude, I was wondering where the next meal is coming from. I get it. I think the idea of white privilege comes around more from how society judges you. For example, right? If I grew up in an upper middle class black household and I walk into a store, my parents make a couple $100,000 a year. I can afford those brand new shoes. I can afford those jeans. And I walk into a store, right, as a young teenage black man. That store clerk's following me around, right? You come in there broke, right? You haven't eaten, and you're looking like, man, I'm going to steal something because I need shoes and my mom can't afford shoes for me. No one's following you around, right? And the idea, that's that privilege that's that undertone. So it doesn't even have to do with your actual lot in life. Right there, right? And so that's some of the challenge. Now, for a white man or woman to go, I'm white, so I'm going to be successful, and this trailer park's going, and the house is just going to pop on my lap. Yeah, right. You got to do the work like you've done, right? I work with you personally. I know you've busted your tail, and now by all accounts, you're successful. You're a 1%er already, right? You made that choice, right? As does anyone. So being white doesn't mean you're going to be successful. Being black doesn't mean that you're always going to be impoverished and take down. But you have to consider, okay, well, how is society looking at us? How is society, what narrative are they giving to us? Now it's your choice to embrace it or block it out, put your head down and do what you got to do, right? But I think that's the thing. I think that if that helps making clarity as to why.
Those are very good points, and I agree with a lot of that. I mean, why wouldn't we just call it like improper discrimination of, people of color or whatever? Like, I feel like that's a more accurate term, but to just say someone's white and privileged, I grew up.
I feel like, to your point, and then you could tell me, you're asking me how I feel as a black man, as a white person, you could say, that wasn't me, right? Like, I never had slaves. Like, I didn't, I've been cool with everybody. Why am I getting this, raw deal now in 2020, right? And that I don't think it's fair either, right? I don't think that because you're white, like you're a racist or your grandfather had slaves or you're that. That's not you didn't. I want to judge people on them.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what have you done to me? Jeremy, what have you said to me? And that is how I'm going to base my exchanges with you, as I would want the people to do the same for me. Alrighty, Eszylfie, what have you done to me? What have you said to me? And then let's either be cool or not cool based on our exchanges.
Totally. And I agree with that completely. And the craziest thing about truly judging people by the color of their skin is like good friends are hard enough to find. If you're just going to not be somebody's friend because like the skin, like you're just cutting your pool in half there. Like it's like, how many people do you truly have, truly trust? Like you're like ride or dies. Like those people are so hard to find. It's like, I'll take them anywhere I can get them. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna. I don't care what somebody looks like. I mean, truly, truly good friends that's just like gonna do anything for you. I mean, like that. That's what's crazy about anything. I will say. I mean, and I know this is a common rhetoric, and I know this isn't like maybe the popular rhetoric. I do think it has a lot to do with age and upbringing. I do feel like every generation is just because we're growing up with more diversity and a little bit more open mind. It's the older generation of our society right now. I'm not saying there's not, millennial racists out there. There are, but if there's one glimmer of hope is I just think every new generation is just like, I like nice people and I hate assholes. I don't give a fuck what your skin color is or what your religion is or who you have sex with, or you know what I mean? Like at this point, like who cares about any of that? If you're a good person, you're a good person.
Yeah.
So let's take a little bit of a pivot. What's going to happen to the market now with Biden coming into office? Am I going to have to pull all my money from you? No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, I have what a year, huh? I mean,
Yeah.
2020. We've had, significant travesties with so many, prominent people passing away and challenges. And obviously we've been in the midst of this global pandemic, the better part of, 8 months now. And, I knew there was a correction coming, right? Like I've been preparing for this for the last few years. I did not know it'd be a global pandemic would be the catalyst of it, right? But boom, when the market dropped in March, I'm like, I'm a genius. I knew it, right? Boom, right? And then, we saw the greatest stock market crash since the Great Depression in 3 weeks, right? The market, peeled back 35%. And then almost just as suddenly, recovery, right? I mean, it was what, a little less 4 months for the market to get back to its previous high, which is crazy because if you look at historically, yes, anytime the market's been trading at a high and sold off, it's recouped those losses and hit a new high 100% of the time. But generally speaking, recoveries take years,
Yeah.
right? 2008, the most recent one beforehand, right? I mean, it took the S&P 500 over 3 years to get back to break even from its high in 2008. And this is like, oh, you got 3-4 months, okay, we're good, right? And then you think, okay, it's stabilized. A lot of people, regardless of your political affiliation and what you like, Trump was certainly pro-business and commerce and capitalism. And so with him, losing the election, you would think, oh, no, Biden's coming in. There's talks of some major tax, raises and things and more government control. You think, oh, no, the market, that's going to react poorly. Oh, no, the Dow today hit over 30,000, right? 30,000 today.
I was reading some article that said the ideal scenario for the market could have happened because Biden, a Democrat who, yeah, I agree, Trump, whether you're for him or against him, I think gave some of that old money investor confidence, right? People just like felt better about putting money into the market. But I heard, and again, I'm not, more than me about this, but because Republicans won so much down ballot, but a Democrat won the presidential candidate, so there's like a more stable person in office from like a policy standpoint and just all the crazy shit that goes on in our politics. But the Democrats lost power down ballot, so it's like the ideal case for the market because Biden may not have the flexibility to increase taxes and really change much that's going to deter an investor. Is there any accuracy to that?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think at the end of the day, it is about balance, right? It's like, you need that yin and yang. You need, it's not, it's, and for me, I don't get much into politics. I just, again, play the cards I'm dealt. But
Yeah.
I think that when you have, certainly, you want leadership at the highest level to be about inclusivity. You want leadership at the highest level to be about, equality, right? And hopefully that's on the horizon because our country's hurting, right? And there's a lot of division, right now. And I think to have, if we can heal together, Democrats, Republicans, men, women, white, black, gay, straight, I mean, we need to come together, right? Do I agree with the things that everyone does? No, I don't, right? But but I respect people. I respect people that think differently than me. I respect people that look differently than me, because to each their own. I'm not the judge of any man, nor someone should be the judge, of me. And I think ultimately in the markets, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. I look at unemployment, although it's gotten better. We're in the midst here in LA. We got another shutdown coming tomorrow, right? Unemployment's still super high. How many small business owners who've struggled to hold on to this point are, on the brink of just closing down? As my work in dealing with a number of clients, I'm finding people are typically on one or two ends of the spectrum. Either people are telling me this is the best year I've ever had, like I'm printing money, or they're like, yeah, Eszylfie, I don't know what I'm gonna do, right? It doesn't seem to be a whole lot of in between. It seems to be these two massive dichotomies, right? And so, I think, and one thing I say all the time, the storm will not last forever, it never rains forever, right? The storm will pass, and so in the end, I feel like, and at least everyone's objective should be, that we should come out better from this than we were before. I think I'm more balanced and more appreciative of friends and family and taking a break than I've ever been, right? I've been forced to during this time. I think that, for those people who haven't planned properly, you go, wow, kind of good to have an emergency fund, huh?
Yeah.
Or kind of good to prepare for the future, or with all the passing and everything. That's a big part of what I do. Yeah, we talk about accumulation in the market and all that. A lot of planning work, a lot of life insurance, a lot of estate planning and things too, because tomorrow's not promised, right? None of us are getting out of here alive, and so it's just a time overall. The one word I guess I'd have to describe this environment is of a time of awakening. That maybe it'll be 2020, the Great Awakening, right? And that's that's where we're at.
For sure. Be honest, have you considered moving out of California because of the tax rates and the lockdowns?
I run a business where I'm licensed in virtually every state, and with, Zoom and Skype and having I own a building here in Pasadena, but technically I could live anywhere, right? And then I look at, for what I paid for my house here in Pasadena, I could probably buy like a neighborhood in many
Yeah.
many cities in the country. But again, it's November 24th, whatever, and it's 75 degrees outside, right? So we're paying the sun tax. I would say I've seen a lot of clients, a lot of friends moving out of state. Seems like to be a mass exodus to cities like Austin, to Nashville. I'm seeing a lot of people leave. But at the same time, this is probably one of the most desirable places to live. So for every person that's coming, there's two replacing them in their stead, right? And so, I get to travel a lot. I get to see different things. I get to see different people's perspectives. So I think that kind of addresses my appetite to live and be around different places. I don't think I physically need to live,
Totally.
somewhere else. And again, I think this storm will pass. Will this last forever? No, it will pass. But I got three daughters. They're at home. They're not going to school, and their school had said, hey, one of the protocols that the city might embark is vaccinations for kids to go back. And I'm like, to each his own. But I'm not a proponent of forcing anyone to do anything, right? And you can't tell me that I have to inject my children with some vaccine that's been tested for 2 months, right?
That's
And
scary
that's the
stuff.
criteria to go to school, right? I mean, this is my children, and so, but for someone who chooses to do that, that's their choice. I won't say anything ill about them. That's your choice, right? But that's life to me, and choices. And so I guess if it came down to, if I felt like my civil liberties were in question and my freedom was in question, then sure, I would look to move. But I feel like probably be premature for me to make that determination, today. But yeah, I've traveled. I mean, I've been not nearly as much as pre-COVID, but in the last few months, I've been to Arizona a couple times, to Atlanta, Florida, and some places you wouldn't know, right? That COVID even exists, right? Restaurants are open in there. I think the way I live my life outside of the traveling for work, it's actually not that different, right? I'm in my office, I'm seeing clients and the like, so I'm not experiencing a whole lot. I'm my days of being out at nightclubs and bars with, hundreds of people, are beyond me past. So I'm not really, so the shutdowns and restrictions here don't affect me as much. I'd say the biggest thing is really just my kid's school, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, my day-to-day life isn't too dissimilar, right? And when we look at like, war-torn countries and massive economic turmoil, the fact that we can also go to Starbucks and get our lattes, we can all still, watch TV and do like let's keep things in perspective, right? Like it could be a heck of a lot worse.
For sure. And I'm pretty openly anti-lockdown. I think it's the worst like law and like worst like government decision of my lifetime. Florida, fortunately, is almost back to normal. Like Florida bars and clubs and restaurants are 100% open. People still wear masks to get sat and stuff at restaurants, but here it. I guess that's what's crazy about the market just doing so well is I just feel like that's what's unique about this recession is it's just like things almost get back to normal with just a government like flip of the switch, which is unique, right? And it's kind of scary too that the government
what makes this situation and why the correction came back so fast in the 2008 credit crisis, in the 2001 tech bubble burst, the government let people burn. Right?
Yeah.
Like there was no government intervention, right? There was no like, oh, you have 8 houses that you bought, right? That you didn't qualify for. Don't worry about it. Stay on foreclosures. Here's some money. Pay those mortgages up. It was like, bye, right? And in this year, it's like, don't worry about it. Don't pay your mortgage. Nobody can foreclose on you. Nobody can evict you. Here you go. I mean, at certain income levels, there are a heck of a lot of people making more money on unemployment than they were working, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons why I think you've got the market so high is that they pump trillions of dollars into people's hands and they're at home. And they're like, well, hell, anyone that I know, like my guys who own in the real estate business or contractors, they're like, I've never been busier because everyone's home staring at that kitchen they've been thinking about remodeling for the last 10 years. Right?
A buddy of mine had like a pool company, they build pools, and they're just like, they were like the busiest we've ever been because they're just like, it's crazy how many people they're sitting around. They're like, what would be nice? A pool. I'd like to sit out at the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I feel like we're on the final corner of the race here. I feel like we're getting really close. Vaccines are supposed to be in. That's probably the only time I would be like personally pro-vaccine is if I'm in a hospital bed and I'm just like not doing well and it's just like, hey, we're gonna try this vaccine because you're looking like shit right now. I'll be like, all right, I'll try it. But by the end of this month is when vaccines are supposed to be in some hospitals for emergency use. I mean, that's we've come a long way, but I'm hopeful we'll just get back to normal, go to sporting events again, before I know it. Hopefully in the next few months. Finance question too. What are you deal with lots of different clients. What are some of the most common mistakes or just like things that you think could be done better from a lot of clients I see? Like I had my buddy Damon, who's is an attorney for a lot of e-commerce businesses, and he's like, I see all these businesses all the time. They just don't have good operating agreements. And he's like, I see this all the time. He's like, if you guys just have create operating agreements, you're going to be in a such better place. Like, what's an equivalent to that you see with, new clients you take on that you would recommend more people do?
I think in general, you want to find a professional that you can work with that can help you crystallize your goals. I always say if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it with amazing accuracy, right? So we're all just working, and some people have things like, oh, I've got a 401k, or yeah, I've set up a Robinhood account, or yeah, I've got some insurance. And it's like, that's great that you have things. It's great that you have stuff. And what I've been saying a lot to people right now is you have stuff, but you have no plan. Like, what's the plan? Right. And so I think to have a plan is understanding that, there's points in life, right? You need to have your short-term accounts. That's your emergency fund. Ideally, you should have a minimum of 3 to 6 months, minimum up to 12 months of expenses just saved. That's just cash. Right. Now, beyond that 12-month mark, unless there's something big you're doing, like, oh, I'm going to buy a home soon or something like that, you should have that money working for you because there's opportunity cost loss. Right. You don't want to have, if my bills are $3,000 a month, I don't want to have $100,000 in the bank. Right? Because 3,000 times 12, that's 36,000. Beyond that, that's a lot of money that's sitting there, doing nothing, right? That you're actually losing money on, right? Because you're not hedging inflation. Then you've got your moderate length bucket, right? That's my investments that, maybe 1 to 10 years, maybe that's my house fund or, emergency fund or opportunity fund that's there. And then you've got your retirement, right? My long term, right? At some point, I want to be able to call it quits or slow down or, or have nice supplemental income. And so I'm looking at, okay, where are you today? Where do you want to be? And then making sure that you have a plan. And I think that comes with dialogue. People, myself included, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so left to your own devices, it'd be pretty difficult to find out like, oh, here's how you model out a financial plan. Here's how I choose my insurance. Here's how I choose my investments. Here's what retirement plans work best. I think it's important to find someone that can help demystify and break down these solutions. And that's why I have a career, right? That's why I'm so busy, right? Because that's my job. And what I've learned as an advisor, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I want. It's not my life. It's not my money, right? I just need to be aligned with, well, what do you want to see? Oh, that's where you're trying to go. Well, then here are some options then that can help you get there. And then what you do with that, completely up to you, right? So I think having a plan is key, but more importantly, sticking to the plan, right? You have your plan outlined, and then it's all about consistency. Like, oh, well, Eszylfie, I only make 50,000 a year. I can't really save. If you don't save when you make 50,000 a year, you won't save when you make 100. You won't save when you make 500. You won't save when you make 1 million, right? And so it's all about discipline. It's all about learning to pay yourself first, put money away in those 3 buckets for yourself first, and then living your life. And I think if people did that, align themselves with someone who can help them carry these things out, then they'd be much better for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's kind of what I've started doing with myself is like almost hack my income so I just don't get as much as I'm actually getting because I just have money taken out regularly. So it's like keeps me working because I think for me, once I got at a certain place of income, I was still working hard, but I maybe took a step back. I was like a little comfortable. It's like, I'm doing
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
like but now I'm just like I've increased my monthly withdrawals and I kind of between my rent and regular expenses, I kind of live off our quarterly distributions as a company and just I treat in my investing as a almost like my rent now. It's like it has
Yeah,
to
I
get
mean,
done
I
every
look
month.
at it, treat it like you got an extra employee on payroll and his name or her name is retirement and they want to
Yeah.
be paid every month, right? And when you think about it, if I made 5 grand a month and I made ends meet and now I'm making 15,000 a month, in theory, should I not be able to save 10 grand a month? Right? When you think about it, right? But
Yeah.
it's human nature to spend up to the level of your income. So yes, maybe you want a nicer house or a nicer car, that's great. But at the same time, you want to peel money off first, pay yourself off first. You make a good point. Generally speaking, what's automated is what people will do. Very rarely, and I mean, I've been in this business 21 years, thousands of clients. Very rarely does someone call me and go, "Hey, Sylvie, I had a great month. I want to make an unscheduled contribution to my account."
Yeah.
Very rarely,
Unless
right?
it's tax day. Unless it's tax day.
Unless it's
Yeah.
tax related, but right, very rarely, a handful of times a year. Versus when that money is coming out EFT out of that checking account, right? It's done. Myself included, right? There are so many times I'll see a draft come out of my account and I'm like, dang, like, and like, all right, you know what I mean? But if left to my own devices, if I had to write that check, easily I'd save probably half of what, maybe a third of what I actually do because it's just automated. And when things are automated and they become the norm, it's just what you become accustomed to and you deal with it. And then next thing you know, you wake up one day like, wow, like I've come a long way. I've amassed, a fair amount.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where the IRS is sneaky smart. They just realize like, hey, we can't just trust these people to save the money and pay us at the end of the year. We're going to start taking it out of their paychecks.
Yeah.
Which is why being a business owner is the best place you can be because, we W-2 some of our income now, but like I would rather get as many expenses out the door as possible and then pay, even if it's a little, it does hurt my stomach to write a check, but I know at the end of the year I'm paying less that way. So,
Well, I say tell people, look, you're going to write a check to somebody, right? It's going to be to Uncle Sam or to your plans, and to the extent allowable by law, look, the government does put these things in place. They put IRAs, they put 401ks, they put pension plans in place to incentivize you to save for yourself. So, by all means, take full advantage of those. And then obviously what you can't put in retirement accounts and you can't expense out for your business that you got to pay taxes on. But we all have an opportunity to do better if we just take the time to educate ourselves, align ourselves with the professionals that can show us the options, and then put together a plan.
yeah. Agreed completely. I don't like when, obviously Trump gets shit on for this, but just politicians in general. I mean, even people for super high tax rates. Bernie and AOC are taking every deduction they can and capitalizing on that. Like they have, Bernie has a team of accountants where he's paying as little taxes as possible. Like even people for high tax rates take advantage. So yeah, everybody should take advantage of the laws, like laws we have in place that allow you to pay less taxes and put more into your savings or the market or whatever. It's cool that the government does that, and those are pretty bipartisan things, which is good. I think the Democrats, Republicans, pretty much everybody in the country is like, okay, we should be able to have some incentives for savings and retirement, because I mean, do you have this conversation with people like people my age, like who the heck knows where Social Security is going to be, where I want to retire? Like, do we know?
I mean, it's scary, right? When you think about it, I think at inception there were 44 people funding Social Security for every one person drawing from it. I think the latest estimates I saw, there was like 2 people funding Social Security for every person drawing from it today. So, in its current form, depending on the numbers you're looking at, it could easily be exhausted in the next 15, 20 years, which is scary. Now, at inception, Social Security was also made to be a supplement. It wasn't a retirement plan. It was made to be a supplement. But, we could very easily be funding into something that we're not going to get, right?
Or we just get it when we're 80 years old.
Yeah, or they'll push back, full retirement's 91 now, right? And so, but you also have to look at the landscape, right? Interest rates have been low, right? So yields on money are harder to come by. You look at longevity, people are living longer, right? And in 1900, right, years, a few decades before Social Security was created, right, the average life expectancy, the average length of time someone spent in retirement was 1 year. So as they're creating these solutions, they're like, all right, somebody retires at 62, they die at 63, 65 even, we're good. Now people, I want to take the early retirement. Between husband and wife, there's a 50% chance that one of the two will live beyond age 90. So it's conceivable that you could be drawing on Social Security 25, 30, 35 years. You take that with instability in the markets and low interest rates, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. No, I'm not even pretending like I'm going to get that money. I just assume I have to make my own retirement. And if I get a couple grand a month, or maybe hopefully it's more than that with inflation at that time, but whatever I get in Social Security, I'll take that as a bonus.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, this is that, I started my career over 20 years ago and I just qualified for a pension, right? And I'm like, how old am I where I can get a pension? But I'm like, and I had a choice of taking it now or waiting until I was 62. And if I waited till I was 62, the number was about double. But I'm like, you know what? Give me that money, right? Because the way it works, when I die, it's gone. Yeah. So you know what? Pay me. Like, I'm going to live it up. I'll save that money. I'll invest it. I'll double it myself, right? And so to the extent, things are allowable by law for us, we should take advantage of it and, and go from there. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
Right. If you get it and you didn't anticipate getting it, great. That's another 2-3 grand a month you didn't think you're going to have that you do have. But if you rely on it, if you go, well, that's going to be my retirement plan, so I don't need to save. Right. Or my company is going to sell one day for 30 million. I don't need to save. And those things don't happen. Right. You're in a problem.
A lot of people do rely on it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's a way for both parties to get votes. I mean, Social Security is a really, really popular topic come election time.
Yeah.
One thing, by the way, I just wanted to share one more thing on the last, when we were talking about race relations in the U.S. I didn't mention, I wrote down, if you see me like writing stuff right here, by the way, I'm just like writing down notes. What is promising and which should be really good for our country from just like a coming together standpoint, the reason Trump lost wasn't because of black and Hispanic vote. He had record black and Hispanic vote. Less white people voted for Trump and voted for Biden. That's actually why Trump lost, which is really crazy. So it showed enough white people were sick of whatever he was doing that they went against what they voted in 2016, which is crazy because he got record black and Hispanic vote for a Republican.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to share that thought. All right, I want to talk to you about your mind, body, money. Can you dive into that?
Yeah, Mind, Body, Money is a reality series that I'm producing right now. Really excited about it. What does your mindset need to be successful? Taking care of your body, health, and wellness, and then your money, right? And how those three things work in concert. And it's literally in that order. If your mindset's not right, right, and your body's not right, you're not healthy, then you can't get the blessings. You can't truly enjoy the fruits of your labor with the money, right? And a lot of times we'll look at them in different order, like, well, I'm a miserable person, I'm nasty, but if I had money, everything would be okay. Well, no, there's plenty of ultra wealthy people that I've met in my career that are just miserable, nasty people. And then there's also people that are really spiritual and balanced and kind, and that's great.
That
But like,
have no money. Yeah.
how do you pay your bills? I'm just curious, right? And so for me, I think you mentioned this in other words earlier, but it's like you want to have an abundance mentality, but not abundance as it relates only to monetary things, but abundance in your thoughts first, right? What those that think they can do something and those that think they cannot do something are both usually right. So that's first, my mindset, and then my body, health and wellness, right? I joking like say I'm young. Well, why do I look young? It's because, I'm taking care of myself. I'm exercising, I'm eating right. Like, this is my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, you got one body, get one. You got to take care of it, and so you got to take care of it. And then the money piece, because if your mind's right and you're strong and you're healthy, then you can work, right? You can work long hours, you can sacrifice, you can be a sicko like me and be all over the world, right? And that's where the success comes. If I'm down on myself and I'm overweight and tired and unhealthy, then how can I make money? Because I can't do what's necessary. I can't sacrifice the time and put out the energy. I don't have the effort to do it. And that's why it literally goes in that order. So every episode that I do will feature some athlete, entertainer, celebrity of some sort, all the way down to the common man and woman. Right. And the biggest thing is the how. We see the cars, we see the houses, we see the glitz and glamour, and that's great. Right. That's sexy. But what was missing for me is the how. Right. When I graduated college, I was as ambitious as anyone you've ever met. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. And if you said, Eszylfie, you bet your life on it, I said 100%. Bet it. If you said, well, how are you going to do it, Eszylfie? That's a good one. I didn't know, right? Like I had no clue. I don't have no path. And so that's what I want to do with the show is it's not a black show, right? But it's showing, hey, a black man is doing these things with other black people, with white people, with Hispanic people, with women, with men, with people who are gay, with people who are straight, with people who are entrepreneurs, with people who are employees, and just showing life, right? Life, but positive, right? And that's the plan, right? So I'm doing the whole thing independently and looking to license the completed project to a network when it's finished. So we're literally at the home stretch here and hope to have that done by next month.
Yeah. So appreciate you sharing. By the way, my next question was going to be how do we watch or support this?
Yeah. So Mind, Body, Money. We have an Instagram, mindbodymoney.show right now, and then myself on there, and then I've got my three daughters, Naya, Shay, and Zoe. They have their social media pages that are up and running now also. But it's all about love. It's all about inclusivity. It's all about the drama of reality shows that you typically find. The drama here is about the quest for success, the desire and the work to be better, right? And that's where the drama is. So I'm super excited about that and sharing this message. It's my life. It's what I do, right? Like that's my house. That's my car. Those are my kids. I own these companies. I give of myself. Those are my nonprofits that I work with and for, and I do yoga and I do play basketball. And this is like my life. So there's nothing that's produced. It's real, right? And a lot of times when I start telling people these are the things that I'm doing, they're like, "Wow, how do you do so much?" And in my mind, I'm like, "I haven't even told you all the things I do yet, right?" But if you think I'll stop here, right? But
Yeah.
but it's like we got one. Just like my father said, we have one body. We have one life. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for, right? Like, let's go. You know what I mean? And so for me, if I can be an inspiration and someone could look at me like, man, this guy's doing it, then I can do it. Then kudos, like, let's go, right? That's why I'm here. That's my mission.
No, that's awesome, man. Good luck with that. And I can't remember what I was watching, but I like texted you one night because I thought I saw you on like the LinkedIn commercial. I was like,
Yeah.
bro, were you on a LinkedIn commercial? And you're like, yeah, I'm on the LinkedIn. Do those things still run?
Yeah, so I was featured in LinkedIn's first national commercial campaign called In It. In 2018, that thing launched. It played in the Super Bowl, launched Golden Globes. I had billboards, bus stops. It's crazy. You land in LAX, run on Century Boulevard. There's a big photo of my face. It was great. That first campaign, I think, was like 4 or 5 months. And then in 2019, they had another sequence, another commercial series that I was in as well. And that was billboards and bus stops and stuff as well. So a bit surreal, but it's like if that was the catalyst really to My Body Money. It was that messaging, it was that positivity, it was that imagery that was being portrayed on a national spotlight, granted for 30 seconds, that was enough for me to go, yes, this is what I want to do. Because really, I didn't want to have a show about me, right? Like, I like helping people, I like inspiring people, but I was like, I don't want a camera following me around when I wake up in the morning and take my kids to school and when I'm like, doing life. But it's like, but the things that I do in my life, I think are powerful and should be known. Right. And so I want to not only highlight the professionals and the athletes, but I want to highlight their how. And then for the people who are here in life and trying to work their way up, I want to give them encouragement and say, here's the path and what it looks like too. Right. So I don't want anybody to look at me like, oh, I want to be like Eszylfie Taylor. I want to have what he has. My goal is for everyone to look beyond me. Right. Like, how can I be better than him? Right. And that's why I'm here. So I guess I'm as successful as I've ever been at this point in my life, but I'm also as humble in that I have enough plaques and trophies. You see them behind me, like I'm good, right? Like I don't need any more. Now it's about bringing everybody else up. And if me helping other people, if the byproduct of that is I make money, wow, win-win.
Yeah, a personal development group I was a part of a few years ago talked about the difference between, they called like a certain level of man a knight, and then the top level of man a king. And a knight got enjoyment out of bringing themselves attention, and a king got enjoyment out of like lifting other people up. Mm-hmm. And that's the maturest level of a man is somebody that gets excitement and passion for just lifting other people up. So yeah. That's awesome. So last question I have for you, who is your ideal client for your firm?
I always say there's 3 elements to the ideal client. 1, good income to expenses, right? So they have X amount of income coming in, Y expenses, and there's money for me to work with. It's 1. Or they have assets, right? So assets for me to put to work, to invest for them. And then lastly, the character. They're a good person. Do we get along? Are our core values aligned? And those are the things that I really want to make sure, right, that are there. Unfortunately, I can't really help someone. I can't take someone on as a client who can't write a check, right? They got to be able to do something, right? But that's why I have my book, Ask the Experts. That's why I do these shows, right? Because even maybe someone's not ready to be my client, or they're not in a position to do that, these insights and things are still, powerful and poignant nonetheless. And then, and then are you a good person? Because you could be wealthy, like, oh, is that wealthy person your ideal client? Well, if they're not a good person, well, then no. Right? Like, no, they're not. Right. And so those are the 3 things that I look for.
That's awesome. And I remember, I don't know if I ever told you this, I had an internship at a financial advisory firm when I was like 20 years old, a company called Waddell & Reed. Have you ever heard of them? Yeah. So some of the clients, like, they were calling all the time and bugging and complaining. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, how much is that worth having as a client when, like, maybe you're making some income off of them, but I'm like, that sounds like a disaster. Like, I'd rather use that energy to get new business and better business than just keep a few pain in the asses around because a little bit of money's coming in. It's the relationship that matters more. The money piece is that will come. Yeah. If people want to reach out to you or contact your firm, what's the best way to do so?
So we have a website, Taylor Insurance and Financial Services. So Taylor, INSFIN.com. There, for advisors that follow me, I have my coaching company, the Taylor Method. So that's taylormethod.com. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So I'm pretty easy. Put in Eszylfie Taylor and I'll pop up. Google me. You'll find all the stuff you want.
Sounds good. And everything will be in the show notes as well for convenience, but I just like to ask verbally in case we miss anything there. But it was great having you today, man. Good catching up.
Yeah, appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player so you get updated when new episodes are live. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support is to leave a 5-star review and share the podcast with people in your life that you feel would benefit from these types of discussions. Visit openlyoutspoken.com for additional details on the show. Find out how to connect with Jeremy on social media and learn more information about Jeremy's personal and business life. We'll see you next time.